Perhaps all of us have experienced the sting of rejection. A harsh word, a cold glance, a door closing right in front of us. Those moments make us question ourselves, wondering whether we are good enough, worthy enough, or important enough to someone. Rejection is one of the most delicate forms of pain. It leaves no visible wound, yet quietly carves deep marks into our self-esteem. But if we look deeper, we'll realize that those moments of rejection are often the quiet turning points of our lives. Because when one door closes, another is opening. We just haven't seen it yet. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher, emperor of Rome, lived under unimaginable pressure. He was opposed, betrayed, and hurt by the very people he trusted. Yet instead of harboring resentment, he chose to see every hardship as a natural part of the path that fate designed to forge the strength of one's character. The Stoic does not try to avoid rejection. They embrace it as a lesson, a challenge, and an opportunity to understand themselves more deeply. For in the silence of pain, we learn to listen to our own voice. In the moment we are pushed aside, we discover the value of standing tall on our own. And when we lose the approval of others, we learn how to give that approval back to ourselves. In today's video, we'll explore 13 lessons from Marcus Aurelius and the spirit of Stoicism to understand how rejection, which we often see as pain, can actually become the fuel for growth and inner freedom. The first lesson is, ignore them. Some people come into our lives only to teach us one thing, that not everyone deserves our energy, emotions, or attention. When we're ignored or looked down upon, our natural instinct is to react. We want to be heard, to prove our worth, to make them realize they were wrong to underestimate us. But in that very moment, the Stoic chooses the opposite path. They don't argue, they don't chase, they simply walk away in silence. Ignoring does not mean weakness. It is the highest expression of self-respect. When you choose not to react, you're powerfully saying, I don't need anyone's approval to know who I am. The Stoic understands that reacting is giving away power. Every time you get angry, hurt, or try to prove something, you're unknowingly handing control of your emotions to someone else. But when you remain silent, you keep that power entirely in your own hands. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that a steady mind is like a rock in the middle of a storm. The waves may crash against it, but they cannot shake it. When you ignore the insults and cold stares, you become that rock, firm, unshaken by the small and fleeting waves of emotion around you. Remember, your silence can sometimes echo louder than any reaction. When you choose not to respond, you're not losing. You're winning in a way others can't comprehend. Ignoring them isn't giving up. It's rising to a higher level where you're no longer dragged into petty conflicts. And in that place, you find something no rejection can ever touch: the peace of someone who truly masters themselves. The second lesson is, stay calm, don't react too quickly. When someone hurts you, the first human instinct is to respond. We want to talk back, to explain, to be understood, and to prove that we're not wrong. But it's in that very moment that the greatest danger appears. We lose control of ourselves. Because once emotions take over, reason is pushed out of the conversation. And then we react, regret it later, and blame ourselves for letting someone touch the deepest, most vulnerable part of our heart. Calmness is the space between being hurt and beginning to heal. And when you react too quickly, you give all your energy away to someone else. You let their emotions dictate yours. But when you pause, when you choose not to respond, you take back control. You're silently saying, my emotions do not depend on anyone's actions. And from that moment on, you're no longer the one being controlled. You become the one directing the game. In every relationship, conflicts are inevitable. There will always be words that irritate you, actions that make you feel disrespected, or attitudes that make you feel invisible. But if you let your mind get caught up in every little detail, there will be no room left for peace in your life. Calmness isn't a slow reaction. It's a conscious one. It's the choice to live in a chaotic world without losing your inner order. When you stay calm, you not only protect yourself from unnecessary pain, but also create an energy that others can feel, one of steadiness, trust, and respect. The third lesson is remove them from your mind. Some people leave our lives in just a few seconds, yet stay in our minds for years. Even when they're no longer around, their image lingers in our thoughts, our dreams, and the quiet moments when we're alone. And that's what truly exhausts us. Not because of them, but because we haven't yet learned how to let them go from our minds. We humans tend to hold on to what once hurt us. We analyze it, replay it, and reconstruct every detail, as if understanding it better could somehow make the pain go away. But in truth, that very process keeps the wound from ever healing, because every time we think of them, we reopen old emotions and allow the past to keep living in the present. And in doing so, even though that person is long gone, we continue to imprison ourselves in a relationship that no longer exists. Stoicism doesn't teach us to forget. It teaches us to accept and move on. Removing someone from your mind doesn't mean erasing the memories. It means looking back at them with calm eyes. It's when you can remember without trembling, when you can think of them without asking why. That's the moment you know you've broken free from the invisible chains of emotion. When your mind is calm enough, memories stop being a burden and become lessons. You no longer think, that person hurt me, but instead, because of them, I understand myself better. You begin to see clearly that everyone who enters your life has a purpose. Some come to teach you love, some to teach you letting go, and some to teach you that peace doesn't come from holding on, but from knowing when it's time to release. Lesson 4. Prove your worth. There are times when someone's silence makes us doubt ourselves. A rejection, an indifferent glance, or simply the feeling of being forgotten. All of these make us wonder, do I still matter? But in truth, what hurts us most isn't being underestimated. It's losing faith in our own worth. The indifference of others may discourage you, but it's also a chance to reflect on what you're truly living for. Many people try to prove their worth through achievements, wealth, or recognition. Yet all of that, if not rooted in truth, is just a facade. True worth doesn't need to be displayed. It shows itself in how you endure the days when no one acknowledges you, yet you still choose to do what's right. The world may never say thank you, may never recognize your efforts, but that doesn't mean you're invisible. In fact, it's in the silence that true value is formed. It doesn't need the spotlight or applause. It only needs you to know you're on the right path, because worth doesn't need to be spoken. It shines naturally through steady actions and self-respect. When you understand this, you'll stop seeking validation. You'll find peace in doing what's right, ease in living truthfully, and pride in knowing your worth, without needing anyone's praise to prove it. Cutting off contact is also a lesson in how to use rejection to your advantage. Sometimes what drains you isn't losing a relationship, it's holding on to it. The more you try to stay in touch, send messages, or wait for a reply, the more you trap yourself in a state of anxiety, as if your self-worth depends on someone else's response. But the Stoic understands that sometimes silence is the highest act of self-respect. The silence that follows cutting off contact may feel empty at first, but within that emptiness, you begin to hear your own voice again. You're no longer controlled by unanswered messages or the feeling of being forgotten. You start to care about what brings peace to your mind rather than what pleases others. In that very moment, you reclaim ownership of your life. Not everyone who leaves needs to be pulled back. Some connections are only meant for a certain chapter of your life. And once their purpose is fulfilled, they must end so that you can grow. Cutting off contact isn't about severing ties. It's about putting everything back in its rightful place, allowing others to follow their path while you continue yours. Lighter, freer, and more at peace. Lesson 6 is, prove them wrong. When someone denies your abilities, your natural instinct is to prove yourself immediately. You want to speak up, explain, and make them understand. But that only makes you more dependent on their approval. Yet when you quietly keep going, working with faith and persistence, you're proving something they'll never truly understand. That real value doesn't need to be seen. It shines on its own through consistency and self-belief. The indifference or disdain of others can sometimes be a hidden gift. It forces you to face yourself and ask, who am I doing this for? If the answer is for me, then every judgment loses its power, because those who live for themselves don't need to be understood. They only need to keep moving forward, growing, and living true to who they are. Proving others wrong doesn't mean seeking revenge. It's the quiet journey of someone who knows that results are the only voice that matters. You don't need to win an argument. You just need to win over yourself, your impatience, your anger, and your desire for validation. When you learn to stay silent and focus on your own path, life itself will speak on your behalf. In the end, you don't need anyone's acknowledgement or apology. You just need to smile when you look back, knowing you chose the right path. The path of consistency, self-respect, and a soul strong enough not to have to shout, "I was right." Lesson 7. Rediscover joy and the energy of life. After being hurt, people often forget how to enjoy living. The world suddenly feels dull. Every source of joy seems drained, and the mind becomes filled with unanswered questions. But the Stoic understands that joy is never truly lost. It's simply waiting for us to return and find it again. Sometimes what we need isn't someone to make us happy, but a quiet moment to remember who we once were. Try noticing the little things. The morning light streaming through the window, the gentle scent of coffee, or the passing laughter of a stranger. When the mind is no longer haunted by the past, we begin to realize that the world has always been beautiful. We just stopped seeing it for too long. Rediscovering joy doesn't mean avoiding pain. It means walking through it with awareness. You don't need to pretend to be strong or act like you're fine. Let every emotion come and go like waves, because only when the heart is allowed to feel pain can it truly heal. And in that process, little by little, your life energy returns. Not loudly, not hastily, but gently, like a breath. When you rediscover joy for yourself, you no longer depend on others to feel complete. You begin to love the ordinary things, cherish every moment, and realize that happiness was never truly gone. It's simply been waiting quietly for you to learn one thing: that every wound can heal if you're patient enough to listen to yourself. The next lesson is build your social standing. There's an unspoken truth that few people admit. Most of our insecurities come from comparing our position to others. We fear being looked down on, fear being left behind, and fear not standing out in the crowd. The Stoic builds their standing not through power, but through character. They don't compete for recognition because they understand that fame is temporary. Instead, they focus on self-improvement, strengthening their abilities, and staying true to their principles. When you know what truly matters, you no longer need to race anyone because you already know your destination. Calmness, consistency, and self-respect are the three pillars that uphold a person's true standing. When you're not easily swayed by praise or criticism, others will sense your steadiness. When you don't talk much about yourself but let your actions reflect your values, respect naturally follows. In a world full of people desperate to be noticed, the one who doesn't need attention is often the one who stands out the most. Status is not something you chase, it's something you become. It emerges naturally when you live with purpose, speak the truth, and do what's right. When you stop trying to please the world begins to notice you. And at that moment, you'll realize that what you've truly built isn't an image, but a foundation of confidence, integrity, and lasting respect. Lesson 9. Keep your distance from those who look down on you. Not everyone who smiles at you is sincere. Some people don't need to say a word. Their eyes alone reveal their contempt. They make you feel smaller, less worthy, as if your very existence were unnecessary. In those moments, the natural instinct is to prove yourself, to explain, to try to change how others see you. The Stoic neither lowers themselves for approval nor grows bitter in revenge. They understand that another person's contempt only has power if you allow it to reach you. And the only way to neutralize it is to withdraw your energy from that space. When you stop caring, stop explaining, and stop placing your emotions in their hands, they'll have nothing left to hold on to. Your silence sometimes confuses people because they can no longer control your emotions. They expect you to react, to get angry, to prove something, but you don't. You simply stand firm in your calmness, and that calmness itself becomes the most powerful response. Keeping your distance from those who look down on you is an act of self-respect. It's not coldness, it's discernment. You can't give your energy to everyone. Let your kindness be for those who appreciate it and your care for the relationships that nourish your soul. Because when you stop trying to prove yourself to the wrong people, you finally have time to become the right person, true to yourself, to your values, and to the path you're meant to walk. Lesson 10. Use silence as a form of strength. People often fear silence. When faced with a wordless space, we feel uneasy, anxious, even desperate to fill it with an explanation, a justification, or an awkward laugh. In this noisy world, everyone wants to speak. Everyone wants to be heard. Many believe that those who talk the most hold the power, and that silence is a sign of weakness. But the truth is the opposite. Those who can't stop talking are often hiding their insecurity, while those who know how to stay silent are in conversation with themselves. Their strength comes from the ability not to be swept away by impulsive reactions, from knowing when to speak and when to step back. Silence is a mirror of inner strength. When someone insults you and you choose not to respond, it's not because you have no words. It's because you understand that not every word deserves a reply. When you're misunderstood but remain calm, you're not weak. You're simply choosing something more important, the peace of your mind. Words can silence others, but only composure can make them reflect. Silence is also a language, one that needs no words, yet everyone can feel it. It says that you are unshaken, that you are strong enough not to explain, that you know your worth without anyone's validation. In the Stoic world, silence is the highest form of self-mastery. Lesson 11. Don't beg for attention. Perhaps one of the deepest human desires is to be seen, acknowledged, and heard. From childhood, we learn to seek the approving gaze of others to feel worthy. But as we grow older, we often fail to realize that the very attention we chase is what slowly causes us to lose ourselves. When you live to be noticed by others, you begin to bend yourself to their expectations. You say what they want to hear, do what they want to see, and slowly forget the true voice within you. The more you try to make others care, the further you drift from yourself. And one day you'll realize that the attention you work so hard to gain no longer makes you happy. It only leaves you exhausted. Begging for attention is the act of someone who hasn't yet realized their own worth. Because when you truly understand yourself, you need no validation. Your silence speaks for your character. Your calmness draws attention effortlessly. In a world full of noise, the one who doesn't need to be seen is often the one who makes others stop and look. That's not a strategy. It's the natural result of inner strength and genuine confidence. Don't chase the gaze of others. Become the light that makes them turn to look. When you stop seeking attention, you begin to earn respect. When you no longer need to be seen, you start to be heard. And when you no longer need anyone's approval, that's when you're truly free. Not because someone notices you, but because you've learned to notice yourself. Lesson 12. Be kind, but don't let yourself be hurt. Kindness is what makes a person beautiful, yet it's also what makes them most vulnerable. When you live sincerely, you risk being taken advantage of. When you give, you risk being underestimated. And when you place your heart in someone else's hands, not everyone will know how to hold it gently. The world doesn't always reflect your good intentions, and sometimes it's your very kindness that becomes the reason for your pain. The Stoic understands that kindness doesn't have to come with weakness. They still love, but with awareness. They still help, but with boundaries. True compassion isn't about how much you give, but about knowing what you're giving and why. When you're kind without losing your boundaries, you not only help others, but also protect your own soul. Some people only know how to take and never give back. They see your kindness as something they're entitled to, and when you stop giving, they call you cold. But if you let your kindness be manipulated, it ceases to be a virtue and becomes a burden. Kindness, when misplaced, can turn you into a prisoner of your own emotions. True strength in kindness is when you can give without expecting in return, help without losing yourself, and love while preserving your dignity. It's when you're kind not because someone deserves it, but because it's who you are. yet still never allow anyone to cross the line that causes you pain. The final lesson: stay strong in silence and guard your inner world. After all the pain, the moments of being dismissed, rejected, and forgotten, you'll come to realize one thing. The only thing you must never lose is your inner self. The world can take away your reputation, your wealth, or even your relationships. But if your mind remains steady, no one can ever make you fall. True strength is never loud. It doesn't lie in arguing or in trying to prove yourself right. Keeping your inner peace isn't about forcing yourself to be tough. It's the process of learning to see things as they truly are. No more, no less. When you stop assigning negative meaning to events, they lose their power over you. A cruel word can only hurt you if you allow it to exist in your mind. But if you remain calm, that word becomes nothing more than a passing sound, like the wind gliding over water, leaving no trace behind. The Stoics call this the art of mastering the mind. They don't try to control the world. They learn to control their reaction to it. When you understand that peace isn't something that happens outside you, but a state that exists within, you stop fearing pain. Because even if everything around you collapses, you remain standing, like a mountain in the middle of a storm. In the end, when you learn to keep your inner peace, you'll realize that no one can truly hurt you. They can only reach you if you allow them to. And when you're calm enough not to react, the world suddenly feels lighter, softer, as if all the noise outside no longer matters. Because the greatest strength a person can have isn't in conquering others, but in the ability to keep the mind clear and peaceful, even when surrounded by storms. Looking back, we realize that every rejection, every silence, every hurt that once caused us suffering actually happened for a reason. They didn't come to defeat us, but to teach us to stand stronger, remain calmer, and think more clearly. Every no life gives us is its way of testing whether we are ready for the right thing. The Stoic doesn't run from pain, they face it. They don't ask, why me? But rather, what can I learn from this? And in the way they confront it, they find freedom. Because when you stop fearing rejection, you begin to live authentically. When you stop seeking approval, you start to find yourself. And when you learn to stand firm amid the storms, nothing can ever make you falter. Rejection is no longer a failure. It is a mirror reflecting your inner strength. It shows you how resilient you are and how much further you still have to grow. Each time you are pushed aside, you are given an opportunity to rebuild yourself, stronger, brighter, and freer. In the end, what matters isn't who left, who turned their back, or who hurt you. What matters is who you've become after it all. If you can endure rejection while still maintaining kindness, calmness, and faith in your own worth, then nothing can ever defeat you again. If these lessons resonate with you, if they help you see life with greater calm, please hit like to let me know that these simple truths still hold value. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, so each week you can have a small moment of quiet, a place where we learn together how to maintain peace in a turbulent world.